Hi everyone, my name is Candice. In this presentation, I will discuss my internship experience this past spring. Here's an overview of the presentation. I'll discuss some basic information about my internship site, background information, the product I created, some of my internship activities, and some learning outcomes. I will also review some common modalities my site supervisor used to treat her patients, a couple highlights of my internship experience, and future directions. My preceptor or site supervisor was Kimberly Evans. She's a registered and licensed occupational therapist and a certified hand therapist. She owns a hand therapy practice called Evans Hand Therapy. At her office, her patients are primarily adults and older adults. A goal of this facility is to give patients the necessary tools and services so that they can get back to the tasks they performed before attending therapy. My internship lasted from January until May with about 8 hours per week for a total of 120 hours. Now I'll go over some background information regarding occupational therapy. OT is a holistic discipline, so at its core is to treat the whole person. OT's emphasis function. OTs can treat patients of all ages and work in many different settings. They can work with pediatric populations all the way up to geriatric populations. They can work in private clinics, hospitals, and skilled nursing facilities, just to name a few. OTs consider occupations or anything that takes up your time that are meaningful to the patient. This informs how the OT conducts therapy. There are leisure occupations such as baking, bowling, or hiking. Sleep is also considered an occupation because of its importance for healing and mood. Another occupation is play. This is very important, especially if the OT works in pediatrics. I also created a post detailing some basic information about OT, which I will discuss in a couple slides. For more information about occupational therapy, you can visit the AOTA website. Before this internship, I had little background knowledge of hand therapy, and as I've gone through my internship, I learned more about this specialty. For example, a certified hand therapist can be either a physical or occupational therapist only, and in order to sit for the exam, certain requirements must be fulfilled. For example, 4,000 hours of direct hand therapy experience, which sounds like a lot, but if you work full-time in the setting, the time passes pretty quickly, according to my site supervisor. For more information about becoming a certified hand therapist, you can visit the Hand Therapy Certification Commission website. I decided to create an Instagram post to educate about what OT is. Even though patients were going to see my supervisor, who was an occupational therapist, they would still call it physical therapy. For example, a patient got a phone call and told the person she was speaking with that she was at a physical therapy appointment. The confusion is understandable though because of similarities between PT and OT, however each has its own distinctive aspects, making it what it is. The goal of my post was to help anyone seeking hand therapy services at this facility to learn more about OT before coming in. I took the picture with the office iPad and created the post on Instagram. I used my general knowledge of OT and what I had learned in the internship. For example, the bowling example I used was from a patient who would measure his progress by how easy it was for him to participate on his bowling team. I also shared the post from Instagram to my supervisor's Facebook page to reach anyone that was not following her on Instagram. Now I'll go through some of my internship activities. Interpersonal communication was important because it helps lay the foundation of trust, especially in a healthcare setting. I would facilitate therapy sessions by gathering materials for my supervisor while she was working with another patient. If she was doing manual therapy on a patient, I would get the next patient from the waiting area and place the hot pack or paraffin wax and hot pack on the patient. Since I can't do manual therapy, I had to observe her therapy sessions, and sometimes I would enter numbers into the system during evaluations to help save time. I also had to learn how to use the office software to enter new patients into the system, set, reschedule, or cancel appointments, and look up past patient appointments for insurance companies that called. A small part of my internship was performing administrative tasks like faxing and answering the office phone. As far as learning outcomes, I learned about modalities in hand therapy. I'll give a few examples in the next slide. Trust is an important factor when working in a healthcare setting because it ensures that patients will continue coming to therapy and comply with treatment protocols. Making a connection with the patient is also important so that trust can be built. My supervisor opened her hand therapy clinic about a year ago, so I learned the ins and outs of how a small business functions in healthcare. I also noticed the need for clinicians who speak Spanish in this setting specifically. A lot of patients were Spanish speaking, and my supervisor would do her best to direct the patient. At times, she would ask me to translate important directions, such as when the patient would need to return for the next appointment. I would also call any Spanish-speaking patients to schedule their appointments. Here are a few modalities that my site supervisor used often. The first one is paraffin wax. The patient dips their hand in the warm wax 3 times. I'd place a plastic bag and a mitt over the patient's hand. While the patient took their seat, I would prepare the hot pack to place over their hand. The paraffin wax helps to distribute heat evenly into the small areas of the hand so that manual therapy is more helpful. Next is the Dexicizer. This is used for patients with wrist injuries. The goal is to get the washer from one side to the other. A hand weight can be placed around the patient's wrist for more strengthening. Lastly, this is a finger shoulder ladder. This is used for patients with shoulder injuries. They climb the ladder as shown in the video. A hand weight can also be placed around the wrist. A highlight from my internship experience was getting to know each patient. One patient in particular shared a personal struggle she was having. It was eye-opening for me because she felt comfortable enough around me to share that story. After my internship, I feel more prepared and confident in pursuing a career